In this video, I'll be showing you how to monitor keyword performance in order to make adjustments as needed. So in order to do this, we're going to be doing this approximately every 4 weeks. We're going to do this at the account level, and we're going to do this by a 4-week time span worth of data. So get started. We're going to go to Google Ads. Once this loads in, we're going to go to search keywords. We're going to make sure that we're in the view of all campaigns, and then we are going to go back about 4 weeks or so. It's always helpful to go back a little bit more just to make sure you've got all the data that you need. We're also going to make sure to reload the page because we're starting up for the day, so we want to make sure we have the most up-to-date data. Once we've got it loaded in, we're going to go over to the impressions column. We're actually going to filter it backwards this time. So we want the lowest number of impressions showing up here. That way we can select them to adjust their match type. So the way we like to adjust our keywords based on low impressions is basically a stair-step method. So we move exact match keywords to phrase match, we move phrase match keywords to broad match, and then we pause broad match keywords. So if after a month an exact match keyword has not gotten over 10 impressions or any clicks, then we move it to phrase match to see if it's going to work a little bit better, and then we monitor the search terms to make sure that we're not getting any bad searches, and obviously adding negative search keywords as needed. We have a whole video about how to monitor search keywords. If it's a phrase match, we do the exact same thing, except instead of moving it from exact match to phrase match, we move it from phrase match to broad match. And then if a keyword doesn't work as a broad match keyword, then that's when we decide to just straight up pause it. One of the few exceptions to this is if it's a location specific keyword, and you do not have a location-specific ad group, then instead of pausing that keyword, we like to move it over into its own ad group to specifically target that location. So in this example, you'll see a bunch of different variations of our method in terms of adjusting keywords. So what you can see here is mulching companies near me is a phrase match keyword. We also have mulching company as a phrase match down here. As you can see here, it gets up to right here. Right here is where we're going to stop making our adjustments because over the past 4 weeks or so, this is the only these are the only keywords that have less than 10 impressions. Once it gets to 11, we're just going to leave it, let it kind of do its thing. Because as you can see here, this one also has 11, but it's gotten 5 clicks. So we kind of like to let these keywords run a little bit longer. If it's still not performing very well, when you check it in a month from now, if it's not performing well over that next month, it will then pop up in your search terms as one that has less than 10 impressions. So that's the reason why we perform this adjustment with these certain dates in mind. And this is why we do it only every 4 weeks, so that way we're not overdoing it and over capturing bad data. So what we're going to do here is we're going to find all the phrase match keywords and we're going to select them. Once we have them selected, we are then going to click edit and then change match type. We're going to change all match types and we're going to change them to broad match and then click apply. A few things to keep in mind when doing this is you need to keep in mind what the goal of your ad group is. So if your ad group is very specific and overlaps with if changing a phrase match to a broad match keyword will cause a bunch of bad search terms to show up and show your ad, I don't recommend doing this. So this is a very subjective change. We only recommend doing this if you know for certain that going to broad match isn't going to cause your ad to show to a bunch of people who aren't actually interested in your services. For example, this mulching ad group is specifically for providing mulching services. If we move this to broad match, it will show to a lot of people who are just looking to buy mulch. So in this case, we wouldn't actually change the phrase match. We would simply just pause these keywords. One thing to keep in mind, this was an inadvertent. Since it's gotten a click, we want to leave it running because it's clear that it at least is getting a little bit of traction. We only want to change the keywords if they aren't keeping up with the rest of their ad group. So what we can see here is by going to the mulching ad group, we can see all the keywords that we're talking about here, and you can see that a lot of them are not getting a ton of clicks, but most of them are getting at least 10 plus impressions. So we're going to leave in place the one that's getting a click, and then these right here are ones that we can actually pause. So this is something just to keep in mind. If changing a word from phrase match to broad match is going to actually hurt your campaigns or your ad group's performance in terms of decreasing the lead quality, we're just going to pause these keywords instead of moving them to broad match. So be sure to keep that in mind. It is very important to consider this whenever changing words to broad match. Exact match to phrase match is not something you need to worry about as much. It will increase the number of search terms that you get in front of, and it will possibly get in front of search terms that aren't as relevant, but it's not going to have as huge an impact as going from phrase match to broad match. So that's just a very important thing to keep in mind. We'll be going ahead, and in order to pause keywords, you just go up here, click pause, and the keywords will be paused. From here, we can go back to the all campaigns view. And so something to keep in mind, like I just showed you, we are doing this by the account level, but once you see that you're transitioning from phrase match to broad match, it is helpful to go in and look at the ad group and look at the goals of the ad group. So if all of your keywords in a ad group are phrase match, then it's probably likely that you want to keep most of them at phrase match because you have determined that phrase match is actually the best match type for that specific service that you're advertising. So all things to keep in mind. It does get a little confusing. Feel free to reach out to Creekside Marketing if you need help, but we're going to keep going and show you what we do with broad match keywords. So as you can see here, we have a lot of broad match keywords that only have one impression and 0 interactions. We are going to leave this one in place. We can see here that it has a low quality score and it's a location keyword. So this typically means when we see a low quality score like this, we want to move it into its own ad group that is targeting that specific location. So we're not necessarily going to pause this because it does have a click. We are going to want to consider creating an entirely new ad group specifically based around lawn mowing and lawn care in Nashville. But we have a whole nother video on how to do location-based ad groups, so be sure to go watch that if you are targeting specific locations. But for these broad match keywords, they fit into our category of low performing, so we're going to go here, click pause, and it will pause all of those broad match keywords. Another thing to keep in mind, if you just recently added keywords, make sure they don't fall they don't accidentally fall into your bid. They don't actually fall into your adjustments because it obviously is going to take some time for them to get results. So if you did just recently put in a new keyword, so for example, we just put in outdoor kitchen to an ad group and it's only been running for a week, even though we're looking at 5 weeks of data, it's obviously not going to show up with a ton of data because it just started running. So you need to wait at least a month for it to run and try to collect data. And then the next month, when you do this adjustment again, you can check back. And if it's still in this category, then you can pause it. So make sure you give every keyword a chance to be successful. Side note to keep in mind that kind of has to do with changing match types of keywords. If you are having a problem with a bunch of bad search terms showing up, so let's say, for example, we don't want to show for, landscaping companies near me, or landscape. We don't want to show up for the keyword landscaping. We can come over here and look at the keyword that keeps showing up for it. And so if we see that it's a broad match keyword and it keeps showing to people that we don't want to see our ads, we can actually go back to search keywords and change it from a broad match to a phrase match, and a phrase match to an exact match. So you can do this process in the reverse order if you're having the reverse problem. So if instead you're not getting enough impressions, if instead you're getting too many impressions on bad search terms, you can actually reverse this order and try to prevent your ads from showing to the wrong people. So show you how to change things to phrase match and exact match, it's the same thing. You go to match types, you click this drop down menu, and you select the match type that you would like. It is helpful to know what each match type means. So I do recommend going to Google's website and just looking up what's the difference between broad match, phrase match, and exact match. It will give you a really thorough overview of how each of those match types work, and it will help you kind of understand better how to make these adjustments. Hope this helps. Feel free to reach out if you need help, and we'll see you in the next video.